what's up guys, welcome back to another video. This is a reaction to the United Kingdom versus Canada country comparison 2022, so it is relatively outdated, but I assume this is going to be comparisons in things that won't really be affected within the last 3 years. I'm not sure, maybe it will be, but we're going to see in this video. Hopefully going to enjoy. I am wanting to do more reactions to stuff relating to Canada, and yeah, based off what you suggest in the comments, I will try and do reactions to those kinds of things. But I've done a reaction a few days ago, and it was pretty cool to see like what Canada, like a bit more about the country pretty much, because I just basically know nothing prior to doing that reaction. And yeah, we're going to continue learning with this video and see how it does compare to the country that I am from. And yeah, hopefully going to enjoy, and let's jump into this reaction.
Canada versus the United Kingdom. Two well-developed, wealthy nations with relatively high quality of life. In some ways they are very similar, and in others they couldn't be any further apart.
Where's that in England?
To me, Canada...
Or maybe the UK, maybe it's not in England. Bro, that's a mad looking place. Where the hell is this? I mean, it's beautiful. I don't know where it is. I've never seen this in my life.
To me, Canada and the UK are like cousins who sometimes hang out together, have a beer, and have a pretty good relationship. We will compare them by looking at their key demographics, quality of life, economies, and geography. And then once we have finished comparing them, we will ask you which one would you rather live in. And as this is a geography channel, we will try to stay clear of politics. I'm your host Sam, and you're watching the Geography Bible. Let's kick off this video by taking a look at where they are both located geographically. The United Kingdom, made up of England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland, is an island nation in northwestern Europe, with the North Sea to the east and the Atlantic to the west. Canada, on the other hand, is a country in North America. Its 10 provinces and 3 territories extend from the Atlantic to the Pacific and northward into the Arctic Ocean. Okay, let's now take a look at their key demographics, starting off with their population and population densities. So the UK...
Oh, the density is not even going to be comparable. But I guess in the regions that people, most people live in Canada, they will be very highly, densely populated, won't they? Because a lot of the people who live in those areas, a lot of people who live in Canada or from Canada live in basically 5% of the land. So when you think about the whole country, it's like, yeah, it's so there's such a low population density. But then when you actually think about it and where people live, it's probably much higher than the UK or pretty comparable.
Comes in as the 21st most populated country in the world, with a population of around 68 million, ahead of France and below Thailand. This comprises of around 56 million in England.
I love how London's just its own area. Southeast, East England. So I'm from East England. But I wouldn't have thought there was 6 million people. I guess East England's quite a large area, to be fair. Where I live is a pretty low population, to be honest. But yeah, then you look at the other countries, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland within the UK. See, there's such low populations in comparison. There's less people in Scotland and Wales combined than there are in London. That is mental.
5.5 million in Scotland, 3.2 million in Wales, and just under 2 million in Northern Ireland. Canada, on the other hand, ranks as the 39th most populated nation, with a population of just under 38 million, putting them above Morocco and below Poland. Canada's population is growing faster than the UK's at around 1% per year, compared to the UK, which only has around 0.6%. The UK's most populated city, when looking at the urban area, is of course London, coming in at around 9.3 million. For Canada, it is Toronto, at around 5.5 million. When it comes to population densities, however, they are a country mile apart. The UK comes in at around 280 people per kilometre squared, whereas Canada has just 3.85, a monumental difference. It is worth noting, however, that London's population density is estimated to be around 5,700 people per kilometre squared. Toronto is Canada's most densely populated city at around 4,330 people per kilometre squared, so surprisingly not too far off London. The average age across the UK is 40.5 years, with the average life expectancy at 81.2. Canada is slightly older at 41.1 and lives about a year longer on average.
Damn.
Let's now move on to the next section, economy and finance. starting off with their gross domestic product, or as it's more commonly known, GDP. So at the time of making this video, coming in as the 9th largest economy in the world, we have Canada at just under 1.9 trillion US dollars, putting them above South Korea and below Italy. The UK, however, impressively sits in 5th place.
The thing is, the UK has been stagnant, like, I swear it's been stagnating for like 15, 20 years now. I swear its GDP has barely gone up. It's been going down and up. Overall, it's just averaged out. And when you see that, and then you also could like consider like how inflation is and all this sort of stuff, it's not good, is it?
With around 3.1 trillion US dollars.
Let's see actually, the UK GDP. UK GDP last 20 years. Here we go. So, okay, so in 2007 it was fucking hell, yeah. So like the last 3 trillion in 2007. So that seems like, I guess at this point it probably was like top 3, top 4 out of all countries. And then the financial crash, I guess, happened, dropped down to 2.4, and it's just slowly sort of stagnated but gone up. And now it's at its highest. Well, this is 2023 actually, so it's not the most recent. Why doesn't it have 2024 data? But the per capita is lower than it was in 2007 again. This is what I'm saying. That's crazy. 20 years back, and people living better. But then everything else is just more pricey now. It's fucked. So I'm just getting into this sort of stuff. No one's even caring. I just know the UK is still high, but my God, it's not been a good 20 years here.
Putting them above India and below Germany.
Actually, quickly, let me just look at Canada instead, just to get a fair comparison, because I assume Canada's just been slowly going up. Obviously, the financial crash probably caused a little bit of a drop. Yeah, this is definitely much more of a healthy look. Look, so the financial crash was 2007, 2008, and it just went up still, or maybe 2009. Then it was around that sort of time, and it's just been going up pretty steadily. To be fair, I mean it is higher now, the per capita, household income and stuff, but it's pretty mad to see. Like, a lot of places have been struggling, I guess, but the UK is lower than it was. This is obviously higher than it was. Yeah, it's interesting to see the differences.
It is estimated, however, that in 2025, India will have overtaken the UK. If you are watching in 2025, then let us know in the comments if India succeeded. The UK's top 10 exports are as follows: machinery, gems, vehicles, minerals, electrical machinery equipment, pharmaceutical...
How is vehicles only 3? I guess 3 is quite high. I would have assumed vehicles would be high, but I guess we've sold off all of our companies to like China and stuff.
Medical equipment, aircraft, organic chemicals and plastics. And then Canada's top 10 exports are crude petroleum, cars, refined petroleum, aircraft, coal, fertilizers, wheat, aluminium, rapeseed and pharmaceuticals. The UK's total exports come to a total of 837 billion US dollars, compared to Canada's, which is roughly 500.
To be fair, I think for a country that's got such a small amount of land, that is pretty decent. But I guess there's other factors around it. It's not just the land because obviously I guess Canada can farm all this stuff. The UK can farm, but I guess that's not really what it can like focus on, because the land area is just so much smaller.
50 billion US dollars. When taking their populations into account, these stats compare pretty closely. When it comes to GDP per capita, which essentially shows the wealth of a country per individual, Canada just takes the win at just over 49,000 US dollars, compared to the UK's 46,000 US dollars. This ranks Canada and the UK as the 24th and 29th richest countries in the world when looking at this metric. The thing that I dislike the most about this metric is that most of the countries at the top are very small nations.
It's just tax-free havens and stuff.
With tiny populations, with lots of billionaires.
Ireland's 6th. That's pretty mad. Ireland's cooking, man. I know Ireland's really thriving, but damn.
Such as Monaco, Bermuda and the Cayman Islands. The unemployment rate as of March 2021 for the
Also, how is the Republic of Ireland considered Northern Europe? Isn't that the most Eastern European country? I mean, I don't really know. That's
UK
interesting.
was 5% and Canada's was 6.9%, so a win for the UK here. UK debt was around £2.2 trillion at the end of the financial year of 2021, equivalent to 103% of GDP.
Oh.
Canada's, on the other hand, was 110%. So
Bloody hell.
again, very similar. Debt in both of these countries drastically increased due to the economic fallout from the global pandemic. And finally, let's take a look at how many billionaires both of these countries have. So very impressively, Canada has 64, meaning that there are around 1.14 billionaires per 1 million people, compared to the UK, which has 56, equating to 0.6.
I guess if you're a billionaire, why would you want to live in the UK? Like, realistically, you could go to live in these other countries where you're going to have such a higher quality of life and you're going to have good weather, this and that. Yeah, I can probably see why they wouldn't want to live here. Which is pretty much a shame because their money would help through tax and stuff, but
7 billionaires
they're out of it,
1
man.
million people. If you're wondering where salaries, average house and grocery prices are, they will be in the next section, quality of life. So let's start this section off by taking a look at the average salary in both of these countries. So in the UK, the average salary is just over £31,000, which is 42,000 US dollars. Canada's is around 68,000 Canadian dollars, which converts to just over 53,000 US dollars. So an impressive win for the Canadians, taking home over 10,000 US dollars more per year on average.
Mad.
Now, with this in mind, let's take a look at the cost of houses. So across the UK at the time of making this video,
Pricey.
the average house costs £268,000, which is around 360,000 US dollars. It must be noted, however, that the average London home will set you back over £500,000, which is just shy of 700,000 US dollars. Canada, on the other hand, has an average house price of an eye-watering $721,000.
Oh, I thought the UK was pricey. My God. What the fuck?
Canadian dollars, which works out to be around 562,000 US dollars.
Mate.
So when we take average salary and average house prices into account, the UK actually works out slightly cheaper. The average house price in the UK is 8.5 times the average salary, compared to Canada, which is 10.6. In my opinion, although Canadian houses may technically be more expensive, you do get more bang.
Oh yeah, you're going to get a massive home as well. It's like, I guess it's just comparable to US homes. Canadian homes are just going to be fucking huge.
For your buck. Traditional Canadian houses tend to be gigantic and have plenty of space, which completely makes sense considering how big the country is. When looking at the overall cost of living index, Canada does take the win, however, ranking as the 21st most expensive country to live in the world, behind the USA and above the Netherlands. The UK sits in 19th place, above the US and below Sweden. Overall, Canada is about 6% cheaper to live in than the UK. So let's take a further in-depth look. So Canada compared to the UK is about 1% cheaper for food, 25% cheaper for transport, 40% cheaper for childcare, 10% cheaper for entertainment and sports, and 6% cheaper for clothing. However, it is 40% more expensive for groceries and about 2% more expensive for houses. According to the website numbeo.com, which uses an advanced formula to calculate quality of life, Canada sits in 22nd place. Guess who sits just below in 23rd? The UK.
I'm getting like the sense that it's just very comparable. Other than land mass, it's very comparable in like many different metrics.
It is almost neck and neck with these two countries. Canada does take the clear win when it comes to the crime index, however, ranking as the 56th safest country in the world. The UK sits
74th. Damn. I guess like population density probably adds to that as well, to be fair. That's my excuse that I'm going to use anyway. But I guess that has its sort of that has its causes from that.
It's in a very poor 74th.
That's
this
mad.
formula uses many different variables such as drug-related crimes, robbery, violence, and level of safety walking home alone at night. The UK finally pulls one back when it comes to the healthcare index, ranking as having the 15th best healthcare system in the world, compared to Canada, which sits in 26th place. Fun fact, the NHS, the UK's National Health Service, is the organisation with the 8th most workers in the world, at 1.7 million.
Holy shit. I did not know that. So the United States Department of Defense, so the two armies, and Walmart, China Railway, McDonald's is just above. But yeah, the NHS is That's pretty mad. Okay, well, fair enough. 1.7 million workers is mental for a hospital service.
To put this in perspective, the organisation with the most
Or a health service, or whatever you want to call it.
workers is the United States of America's Department of Defense at 2.9 million. McDonald's has 1.9 million as well. When it comes to the obesity rates, Canada is slightly worse than the UK, at 29% and 27% respectively of the adult population being classed as obese. When looking at clean air, Canada takes another win, ranking at...
That's not a surprise though, Canada's massive. You got all this nature, all these like forests and stuff, of course it's going to be better. I can hold my hands up and be like, yeah, that's the most obvious like difference that there would be. The UK is just too small and too many like big cities close to each other to have incredible air quality. Again, I'm coping. I'm making excuses, but...
the country with the 10th cleanest air in the world, compared to the UK in 15th place.
Oh, it's not too much more.
Of course, this completely varies as to where you are. The air quality of London or Montreal is completely different to the Lake District or the Rockies. When it comes to education, both of these countries seriously excel. Canada comes in as having the 8th best education system in the world.
First.
The UK, on the other hand, ranks as number 1.
I always use my examples of going to my school. My school was the worst school in my city. I'm not from a massive city, but it's a relatively decent... It's like 200,000 people who live here. But then a lot of people come from like towns nearby to the city to go to school and all that sort of stuff. My school was awful. So I couldn't maybe get this sort of level of education. But I guess when it comes to like high-level universities, I can see that. But that's obviously not for everyone. How is the UK so far ahead in the Quality and Opportunity Index?
Out of the top 10 universities in the world, you will find 4 of them in the UK.
Is this subjective though? Because again, it's universities, but surely school. And when I say school, I mean like when you're like 7 or 6. Wait, no. In the UK, it's free to like 16. Surely that's how you should judge it as well, not just university.
That's Oxford, Cambridge, Imperial London, and UCL. Canada does not feature any of their universities in the top 10. You have to scroll down to the 26th place to find the University of Toronto. Alright, time for some geography and climate. This should be interesting. So first, let's take a look at just how big both of these countries truly are. Let's jump over to our favourite website, thetruesize.com, where you can compare the size...
This is going to be humbling. Very, very humbling. Yeah. Shit.
...of countries side by side. So as you can see, Canada completely and utterly dwarfs the UK. Canada, after all, is the second largest country in the world at around 10 million kilometers squared. The UK is around 38 times smaller at just 242,000 kilometers squared, making it the 78th largest country.
What's mad about this though is Nigeria actually looks a lot smaller than I thought it would look, and yet the population here is mental. I know that's not even related to the video, but yeah, the UK looks bigger in Africa than I thought it would, which sounds crazy because it looks tiny.
In the world. Although remarkably, it is the largest island nation in Europe and the Western Hemisphere. Canada is vast and rugged land. From north to south, it spans more than half of the Northern Hemisphere. From east to west, it stretches almost 4,700 miles across 6 time zones. It's the second largest country in the world, but only has 0.5% of the world's population. Canada features blue lakes, numerous rivers, majestic western mountains, rolling central plains, and forested eastern valleys. The Canadian Shield, a hilly region of lakes and swamps, stretches across northern Canada and has some of the oldest rock.
I just think the land in like the north, I'd say the Americas overall, but I'm going to say North America, are just unreal. Like you got it throughout the US, you got it obviously in Mexico. I've not really looked at it too much, but I know there's like different areas there. And Canada as well. There's just so much beauty, natural beauty in the land in this region. Yeah, and like there's the mountain ranges, there's so many different mountain ranges and stuff, lakes, this and that, like it's so varied and it's just so beautiful.
In the world. Canada's far north lies in the frozen grip of the Arctic, where ice, snow and glaciers dominate the landscape. Few trees and plants grow here, and farming is not possible. Native Canadians, called First Nations people, live in this region by hunting and fishing. The United Kingdom consists of a group of islands off the northwest coast of Europe. As mentioned earlier, it is a unique country made up of 4 nations. England, Wales and Scotland also make up Great Britain. Much of the north and west of the UK is covered in high ground, knife-edged mountain ridges separated by very deep valleys. This terrain was shaped in the last ice age, when thick glaciers covered the land. In the south of England, the countryside is mostly rolling hills. In northwest England and the Scottish Highlands are dozens of lakes called lochs. These were left behind when the Ice Age glaciers melted. They tend to be long and narrow, and some are very deep, up to 310 metres. Because of its great latitudinal extent, Canada has a wide variety of climates. Ocean currents play an important role, with both the warm waters of the Gulf Stream in the Atlantic and the Alaska Current in the Pacific affecting the climate. Westerly winds blowing from the sea to the land are the prevailing air currents in the Pacific and bring coastal British Columbia heavy rain and moderate winter and summer temperatures. Inland, the Great Lakes moderate the weather in both southern Ontario and Quebec. In the east, the cold Labrador Current meets the Gulf Stream along the coast of Newfoundland and Labrador, cooling the air and causing fog. The northern 2/3 of the country has a very similar climate to that of the northern Scandinavia, with very cold winters and short, cool summers. The central southern area of the interior plains has a typical continental climate, which is cold winters, hot summers, and not too much rain. It is a common misconception that all of Canada is always cold. However, cities like Toronto, Vancouver, and Montreal see temperatures in the mid and high 20s and even 30s throughout their summers. The UK has a temperate climate. In general, this means that Britain gets cool, wet winters and warm, wet summers. It rarely has the extremes of heat or cold, drought or wind that are common in other climates.
I do deep down I'm actually quite happy about that. I know I make jokes about how dull the country is or how gloomy it gets in the winter, and I'm saying this now because it's just obviously now early September, and I feel like early September to mid-September in the UK, or even just throughout, is typically still quite nice. When the days start getting a lot shorter and it is winter time, I feel like maybe I'll change my tune a little bit. But it gets darker earlier in every country when it's winter, so that's not it's a difference here. But I like the fact that it doesn't get extremely hot. I just wish there was more sun. That's just it to me, to be honest.
The weather conditions are also very changeable. This is why people from the UK, including myself, talk about the weather so much, because it changes so sporadically. Let's say you lived in Dubai. You would expect to see sun pretty much every day, all day, and high temperatures. In the UK, you may wake up to the wind and rain, and then by lunchtime, it is sunny with clear skies, only to have hailstones later on in the evening. Not all parts of the UK have the same climate, however. The general pattern of climate across the UK has 4 distinct regions. The southeast, which has cold winters, warm and dry summers. The southwest, which has mild and very wet winters, warm and wet summers. The northwest, which has mild winters, cool summers and heavy rain all year. And finally the northeast, which has cold winters, cool summers and steady rain all year. The coldest temperature Canada has ever experienced is -63 degrees Celsius in Snag, Yukon, which makes the UK's coldest temperature sound warm at -27 degrees Celsius in Aberdeenshire, Scotland. On the other hand, the highest temperature ever recorded in Canada was 49.6 degrees Celsius, which is 121 degrees Fahrenheit in Lytton, British Columbia.
I knew it got quite hot there, but quite hot there, but 50 degrees Celsius. What the fuck? What? And it was 4 years ago. What the fuck?
Fahrenheit in Lytton, British Columbia in July 2021. The UK hit its highest ever temperature when Cambridge Botanic Gardens recorded 38.7 degrees Celsius in 2019.
That's just at the average temperature in certain US cities like Phoenix, Arizona. That's probably under the average temperature during the summer. And that's the hottest it's been in a specific area in the UK. And that temperature feels horrible in the UK. But it's because we're not used to it. That is pretty much it.
One thing that the UK definitely, although subjectively, beats Canada on is its geographical location. Apart from the US, Canada doesn't really have any nearby countries or neighbours. This means international travel is more expensive and harder to do. The UK, on the other hand, is surrounded by many different countries with different climate and cultures.
True.
Madrid, for example, is only 2.5 hours away from London. Copenhagen less than 2 hours, and in less than 4 hours you can be in Istanbul. And as the UK comprises of 4 different nations, plus the Republic of Ireland being a stone's throw away, you technically have super easy access to other countries. This is great for vacations and business travel. And to finish off this video, because I'm an animal lover, let's take a look at which country has the deadliest animals.
Oh, well, we know that Canada is smoking us here. They got bears and all. They got polar bears here, haven't you? I mean, you got all kinds of stuff here.
I think we all know which country is more dangerous to hike and venture out into the wilderness.
Yeah.
So Canada has moose, black widow spiders, although rare,
Black widow spiders in Canada, damn.
rattlesnakes, cougars, polar, grizzly and black bears, rattlesnakes, wolves and coyotes. Whereas the UK has sheep and cows. So this one is a clear win
Is that
for the
all we
UK
get?
in terms of safety, but for epicness,
You have foxes though. They can be dangerous. They can't. I was in London the other week, and the foxes were literally just like roaming the city. I swear foxes are trying to become domesticated. Is that a thing? Because they've probably seen that dogs are getting all this love, and like, you know what? I want to get free food. I want to get pampered, this and that. But that could be just a fact that's not even true.
it's a win for Canada. So there we have it, the United Kingdom versus Canada. Who do you think won? Let us
I think in this video, Canada probably won, to be honest. But yeah, it's just cool to see these comparisons. I'm Canadian, and I absolutely loved this video. I love the UK, but I'll always live in Canada. Fair enough. Moving to Vancouver from the UK at the end of the year, I cannot wait. Born in the UK, Burton-upon-Trent in 57, left the UK in 83, live in Winnipeg, Canada. I love Canada. I love Canada I love Canada as it is a open land country and beautiful weather, and love the beautiful country. I mean, it does look beautiful. Sentence confused me a little bit, but hard choice, but I'd probably live in the UK, not London, and visit Canada, especially the Rockies. Hey, everyone's got their opinions, but I enjoyed this reaction. If you're from Canada and you've been to the UK or you live in the UK, let me know your experiences and your comparisons, or vice versa. You're from the UK but you've moved to Canada, or you've been to Canada. I would be fascinated to see like what your preferences are and why you maybe chose to live in this country or this and that. I guess it's probably work related, right? But yeah, that's pretty much it. Until next time, like, subscribe, and peace.